Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the GM. It is your guy Boulanger, and up next, we're going to get into the explanation of why I did the comparison and the talk about the trajectory for Cam Newton and Lamar Jackson. Do me a quick favor, hit like, subscribe, with the notification bell so that you get updates when we upload new content. Let's go. So after I did both those videos, I knew kind of how the commentary would go. So both in the comment section of the videos and also in direct messaging, a lot of people were not in favor of the comparison. Okay. But most people took the comparison as one that was about who's better, Cam or Lamar. Um, some people took the comparison as if I was talking about their playing styles were the same. Some people addressed the comparison as if I were talking about their throwing styles were the same. Okay. And that's not what I was comparing at all. So let me be very, very clear. What I was not comparing was who was better. Okay. The only thing I said about better is that Cam had better outcomes over the first 5 years. No matter what you feel about that, that can be proven and that is true. Okay. I'm not debating what happened in those first 5 years. I'm not debating who got hurt. I'm not debating what should have been different. If we're just looking at outcome, Cam would have had a better outcome over those first 5 years. That's all I said about better. But what I was not comparing is who is the better player. Okay. I also was not comparing, okay, their metrics. Cam is significantly bigger than Lamar Jackson. So it would be dumb for me to have compared their metrics. I was not comparing their metrics. I was not comparing their playing style. Okay. Cam Newton and Lamar Jackson's playing styles are different. So that I was not comparing that either. What I was comparing are these three things. One, I was comparing situation. That was the overall thing that I was comparing, the situation that they were drafted into. Okay. I did compare the first 5 years outcome. Okay. And I did compare the narrative of their story from start through the first 5 years. Okay. So let me talk specifically about the thing that seemed to got confused. Okay. The situation that they were drafted into was very similar. Okay. They were both drafted in the first round of their respective drafts, different ends of the draft or of the round, but they were both drafted to teams who had not been winning as of late. Okay. That's true. They both were drafted by teams who were defensive minded teams and who were heavy in the run game. That is true. Okay. They were both drafted by teams who did not, in OT, did not invest a lot in the weaponry put around them. Cam Newton or Lamar Jackson, neither had great investment in the weapons. I'm not questioning did their teams draft wide receivers or draft running backs. What I said very clearly was they did not make great investments in the weaponry, meaning the team didn't intentionally go out and get somebody to bring in to make sure that their franchise quarterback had what was needed to be ultimately successful. That is what I said, and that is true. Yes, the Ravens drafted numerous wide receivers. Yes, the Carolina Panthers drafted numerous wide receivers, but they did not make a significant investment with that same type of draft capital to go get them a guy or two in a trade to bring in to assist them. That is true. Okay. That makes them comparable. What I also said in situation was that they were both given running style offenses. Okay. Which is a greater point for a later video. Okay, that is true. You can see that both those guys ran the ball a whole lot in their careers, especially in the first 5 years. Okay, those things are true situationally. You can't really dispute that. Yes, they were on different teams, but the situations were similar. Okay, another big comparison that I was making was simply that the narrative about both quarterbacks were very similar coming into the draft. Cam Newton and Lamar Jackson both were said to be inaccurate quarterbacks. They were both called athletic quarterbacks or dual threat quarterbacks or running quarterbacks. That is true. That is the descriptive that was surrounding them as they entered the draft. And so those are the things that make them comparable. Okay? I understand what happened from season to season to season was different, but I certainly think it's reasonable that I can compare their outcomes over the first 5 years. Either you won or you lost. We can always talk about what happened in individual seasons, but that's any quarterback on any team. But outcomes are outcomes are outcomes. See, it's the same type outcome when we say that Lamar Jackson has won outcome 70% of his games, only behind Patrick Mahomes. Now, are Patrick Mahomes or Lamar Jackson the same quarterback? No. But when you make that statement, you're comparing outcomes. You see, the reason why I can't make the comparison Lamar and Patrick Mahomes is because they were drafted into different situations, different team mindsets, different team constructs. And so that's why I didn't make those comparisons. The reason why I think somebody suggested that I should make the comparison between Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts. I can't make that comparison. They had a similar narrative, but the situations they were drafted into were very similar. The Philadelphia Eagles had a nice roster already in place. But then the Philadelphia Eagles did what was necessary to increase the talent base around Jalen Hurts. Okay, let's just be honest. The Ravens did not do that. They did it in 2023, which is going into year 6, but that began to happen for Jalen Hurts as early as year 2, and then specifically most even more pronounced in year 3. So when I was making the comparison between Lamar Jackson and Cam Newton, the reason why I made the comparison is not because of playing style or metrics. It was simply because the situations they were drafted into were very similar, even down to the fact that Cam Newton's number 1 wide receiver was a 5'9" Steve Smith, who was a dog. But after 3 years, he lost Steve Smith. They released him, which is how he got to Baltimore. Lamar Jackson's number 1 wide receiver, I'm not even talking about target at this point, I'm saying wide receiver, was Marquise Brown, who went for 1,000 yards in his 3rd year. And what did the Baltimore Ravens do? They got rid of him. See, that's comparable. See, I'm not talking about it's an exact match. I'm making the comparison because where I'm headed in talking about trajectory makes it comparable. Okay, so over the first 5 years, what I compared was that they hit high heights. Cam Newton hit his highest passing mark in year 1, and Cam Newton had his best total statistical season and his MVP year in 2015, which is where he won the NFC Championship and went to a Super Bowl. That in those two years was Cam Newton's highest height. Okay. Lamar Jackson, up until this point, after 5 years has been complete, his highest height was winning the MVP in his 2nd year. I'm not disputing that he's done more with less. Not disputing that. I'm just talking about at that point the accomplishment of hitting the high height. And so if we talk about trajectory, okay? If we talk about trajectory, it's gone down for Lamar just like it went down for Cam during that time frame of the first 5 years. Cam hit a high and went down for about 3 years until he hit the MVP year. Lamar Jackson hit a high in 2019, and it's gone down over the last 3 years. Now we can be mad and upset because it sounds like I don't believe in Lamar, but that's false. If you checked every other video that I did this offseason about Lamar Jackson, there's no way you can say that I'm down on Lamar Jackson. I'm simply talking about a trajectory. A trajectory only happens three ways: what's going up, what's going down, or what has been sustained. That's it. There's no in between. There's no ifs to trajectory. You see, because it can't be an if to a trajectory. Why? Because if the if happened, it changes trajectory. Trajectory is based on what has happened. When I talk about Cam's first 5 years, I can only talk about what has happened. Potential means what will happen, or what could happen, rather. When I talk about Lamar Jackson's first 5 years, I can only talk about what has happened. Doesn't mean I'm down on him. In fact, what I said was, this is what we need to avoid: a Cam Newton type trajectory. You see, there's another video that goes with this that explains what I want the end result to be the end result that I want to be avoided. There is an end result that we have to avoid. I have a series, 2-part, maybe 3 parts. It depends on how much time it takes to do them, called Death Sentence. And it's the ultimate trajectory that we need to avoid. I'm not worried. Somebody told me I was worrying too much. I can't remember who said that, but I'm not worried. In fact, these are just conversation starters. These are just bantering points. These are videos that can be debatable. Why would I bring you something that we can't even talk about? If I just say, hey, you know what, the Baltimore Ravens, man, they got a good receiving squad. There's no conversation about that. If I say Lamar Jackson is the best runner of the football at the quarterback position, there's no conversation about that unless you want to throw in Justin Fields. You see, I like to create conversation about ball. In fact, I think I'm gonna change my slogan from "Let's go" to "Let's talk ball." Because that's all we're talking about here. So I wanted to make those points. I'm not. Let me repeat. I am not saying Cam was better than Lamar or Lamar is better than Cam. That was not the comparison. Now you can compare outcomes and say one was better, because outcomes is something you can prove, right? You can prove outcome. In fact, I hope that Lamar Jackson hits the high that Cam hit, meaning winning an AFC championship and visiting the Super Bowl. But instead of losing, winning it. Do I think we can do that this year? I believe we have the squad that could get that done. But there's a lot of factors, of course, that's going to play a part in that, and health is one of those for sure, for all the players. But when I'm talking about a trajectory, the next video will highlight what I'm pointing to very distinctly. And there's a greater factor. So give me a little time to put this next video together. It takes a lot of looking, reading, documenting, that kind of thing to do it. I really enjoy doing the videos. I really enjoy doing the responses, because that's conversation. So I just want to be clear. What I was comparing was situations they were drafted into, okay, which are very, very similar. What I did compare is outcomes of the first 5 years and how they both have hit high heights. And although Cam Newton's career is in cement at this point, the trajectory that he was on was down. I think somebody's responded to me and said that Cam Newton would have hit 4,000 yards Um, if he had to stay healthy when he got North Turner, I don't disagree with that. But again, that's if. See, if would change trajectory. But what I'm talking about is if I look back at his career, I can see what did happen versus what could have happened. And that's what I'm saying Lamar Jackson has to avoid. And I believe Todd Monken is the guy, which that'll be a part of the cheat code series. I believe Todd Monken is the guy who can help Lamar Jackson avoid that trajectory. I'm your guy Boulanger. This is the GM, and I'm out.